Now I'd like to invite our first speaker, Ms. Varsha Naik, to deliver her presentation on reversing high BP, cholesterol, diabetes, and obesity through diet and lifestyle changes. Varsha Naik is an assistant professor in the Department of Food, Nutrition, and Dietetics at Goa College of Home Science in Campal, Panaji, Goa. She had earlier served as Child Development Project Officer and Social Welfare Officer in the Department of Women and Child Development. Over the years, she has organized several need-based workshops and seminars for the growth of students, teachers, and allied community in Goa. She has a master's in food, nutrition, and dietetics from the University of Bombay and is UGC Qualified for leadership. She has also done a Bachelors of Electro Homeopathy Medicine from the Indian Board of Alternative Medicine, distance mode. Her passion for research led her to register as a research scholar at Goa University in Department of Biotechnology. She has over 15 years of teaching experience at undergraduate level and over 5 years at postgraduate level. She has presented papers at state, national, and international level seminars and conferences and has several publications to her credit. And now, let's welcome you on stage to hear about the lifestyle changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita, for such a warm introduction. And at the outset, I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Daryl for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this Earth Summit. He's very well said, that our soil also matters a lot, and it does. Not also, it's one of the important things. In fact, we say, and if we need these essential nutrients, it has to come from collective efforts, like-minded efforts of people who are associated with Daryl and his team. So we have this sustainable developmental goals, especially the SDG 3, which focuses on ensuring good health or healthy life and promoting wellness, well-being. And it clearly says it requires collective efforts by various stakeholders. And Daryl is doing the job of involving many of us in meeting or achieving the sustainable development goals. Now, one of the focus of sustainable development goal, in fact, we have some targets, global targets, nutrition target, global health targets. By 2025, we have to achieve those targets. Now, it's very easy to put in statistics. These targets have to be met, but it has to come or it has to start from each one of us. What does this goal says? We have to reduce obesity by 25%. We have to reduce diabetes, the different types that we have, by 25%. We have to maintain or achieve our target for increasing our good waist to hip ratio. We have to reverse non-communicable diseases, particularly apart from what I've said, diabetes and obesity, even the cardiovascular diseases, specifically coronary heart disease. And for that, we need to work. Government of India has launched a scheme called as Poshan Abhiyan, which I'm sure you must all be aware of. Now, it also focuses on reducing anemia, because one of the common public health nutrition problem is micronutrient deficiency, and iron deficiency and folic acid deficiency, anemia being one common. Particularly women, we need to reduce, and for that we have Treat Anemia T3 campaign. So there are many speakers who are going to talk about various other alternative methods and other conditions, but since I've been given to consider nutrition and lifestyle diseases, so let's see. This is an attempt to create awareness among people who have inadequate knowledge of food composition. It's very easy for someone to come and say, you must eat this, you must reduce the intake of so-and-so food, or increase an intake of a particular food. But you need to have adequate knowledge on its food composition, because when you talk about a fiber, there are different types of fiber. Okay, what works well for a diabetic when it comes to soluble fiber, insoluble fiber may not be applicable to a coronary heart disease patient. Okay, so in Ayurveda, I've made an attempt to translate this, okay, in English. It says, "Oh God, give us food which does not cause any disease and also gives us strength." Do you all agree? Yeah? Yes. Or famous Greek physician, Hippocrates, he said, "Let food be our medicine." And this has been, he has given us this ages back, because his focus was on understanding the body composition, understanding the human body, and then devise a particular diet. There are certain factors which determines your food choices. I would rather say these factors, especially the external cues, which are kind of trappers. They trap us. Kids, if they are at home, they don't accompany you, to the shopping malls, their demands are not the same. The moment you take them and they get an exposure, to all these so-called as processed foods, their demand increases for those foods. But who are responsible for allowing them to make those choices? We ourselves. But I think, as parents, we need to, explain to them, okay, what are the pros and cons and what is right and what is wrong. Once in a while to have celebration is fine, but not a regular feature. It annoys me when I go to certain malls and I see parents literally in their shopping cart, having packets of cornflakes or all those milk additives, like I don't want to label or name the products, okay, but all these food additives which are not really required. I think a simple beverage, okay, without addition of anything external can meet your requirement. So strong behavior modification. In fact, I always say behavior modification towards the end of my presentation, but I'm using a reverse method now, okay? We all need to adopt something called as a behavior modification. We need to have strong control over our food or eating habits, because we say nutrition is a maker and marker of healthy development. We need healthy life. We need to, effectively implement good dietary habits, and these dietary habits has to start right from the beginning, that is from childhood. We are talking about reversing at this age, but if we need to, prevent any of these lifestyle conditions, our childhood is the best. We have the formula foods, which for no reason we are promoting. Do you all agree with me? Okay, the goal, Sustainable Development Goal says exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, and thereafter complementary feeding, timely complementary feeding at the beginning of 7 months. But the day that you deliver, you are there in that room and then you see a formula feed. Is it really required? It's like, inviting for non-communicable diseases at an early age. You want diabetes, you take. Okay, you want obesity, you take this. Mother's milk is compact with all the nutrients. So, when we begin our journey, that's the time that we need to focus on right kind of nutrition. There's a rapid transition, which I'm sure all of you all will agree, from undernutrition to poor nutrition. 20 years back, I remember we were focusing more on preventing undernutrition. And in that bargain, we conveniently forgot that what we are doing is what we have got over the period of time is obesity and overweight and obesity cases, which has, given rise to the other non-communicable diseases. So too much of soft drinks, too much of sugar, not right fat. I'm going to come to this statement of saying not right fat, okay? Usually people say fat, excess of amount of fat, which can cause poor nutrition. But I'm talking about not right fat. Processed foods, refined food, these are some of the reasons, and too little of vegetable and fruits, physical activity or sedentary lifestyle, and dietary fiber. Dietary fiber, we call it as not as a nutrient, okay, but it is a non-nutrient substance having very important health benefits. So it has been also considered as a mechanism by which we can reverse many of our non-communicable diseases. So what happens when we don't eat right? I don't have to speak on this. Our the speakers are going to focus on each of these non-communicable diseases, but obesity, diabetes, blood pressure, coronary heart disease. Obesity is the root cause for many of these other conditions. Nevertheless, there are people, who say that I don't have even an inch of fat, yet I'm a diabetic. That could be because of, the various other markers. Okay, so there are non-dietary causes of coronary heart diseases, which includes reduced physical activity, stress, and lack of sleep. Daryl has, in his opening remark, he has spoken about, what we need is wellness, right? Okay, so there is no, I would say, one magic bullet or secret which can take care of all your conditions. We need meditation, we need relaxation, we have to have good mental health, we need to, be de-stressing ourselves, right? Okay, because most of these things like stress and all, it builds up free radicals, okay, or oxidative stress we call it as, and that could lead to certain non-communicable diseases. For example, we have stress-related diabetes mellitus, okay? So for that you need to adopt certain other practices. Excessive consumption of alcohol, cigarette smoking, which also can lead to free radical build-up and can cause damage to our arteries, coronary arteries. Tobacco chewing. Apart from this, heredity, yes, this also needs to. And if it's genetic-oriented or heredity-related, then we need to look at it in a different way. For example, obesity. Okay, there are certain peptides, neuropeptides, or some genes, OB gene or leptin, what we talk about. Okay, now if let's say someone is having less of leptin, now how much ever he tries to control or adopt, the strategies of controlling his obesity, it's not through diet or exercise, it may not really help him out. Okay, so what that person requires is the leptin management. And this has been proven by some of the researchers from US of Indian origin who have managed many of these obesity cases by having a hormonal control. So India is known as the diabetic capital of world, and one of the reasons is central adiposity. Okay, do you know what is central adiposity? The build-up of fat which is taking place around our tummy, right? The waist to hip ratio has increased. The waist circumference has increased. The hip circumference has increased. And we are not understanding that, many kids especially, okay, we want them to be couch potatoes. In fact, fat kids are associated with being called as healthy babies or chubby babies, which should not be the thing. Okay, what we require is a lean body or lean person, lean child, wherein the fat-free mass is more. Now, insulin resistance, what happens is when you have obesity, because of the excess amount of fat, it interferes with the insulin receptors there. Okay, and as a result of which, the ability of insulin to take care of blood glucose levels, okay, is affected. All right? Yeah, so this requires, or a diabetic having obesity, okay, needs to adopt good eating practices, as well as he needs to practice yoga or exercise, which he has to make exercise as an integral part of his life. Because unless and until you take care of your fat, that belly fat, you're not going to really allow your blood glucose levels to reduce. Yet another, hyperinsulinemia, okay, excess production of insulin, which is released in blood because it's not really being used for the purpose for which it is mentioned, okay, is also one of the reasons for which we are not able to take care of our blood glucose levels, and it is because of obesity. Non-insulin diabetes mellitus, hyperlipidemia, hypertension are also the consequences of obesity, and this tells us that why obesity, okay, needs to be controlled at first instance. Cardiovascular problems focuses on coronary heart disease or myocardial infarction, because these are the most of the common conditions which are associated with our ill health or lifestyle disease. Now, when you talk about coronary heart disease, okay, we need to focus on a lipid profile, because that's very important. It's not that looking at you, I can say, oh, you're having coronary heart disease. So what is being told to us is to study your lipid profile. And when you talk about lipid profile, we have triglycerides, we have total cholesterol, we have your LDL cholesterol, we have your HDL cholesterol. Okay, and I'm sure some of y'all who have gone through, okay, must be familiar with these parameters. Now, what we need to remember over here is we have to have high levels of good cholesterol. Okay, and what is good cholesterol? HDL cholesterol. We need to have low levels of bad cholesterol, right? Which is that bad cholesterol? The major carrier of cholesterol is our LDL, low density lipoprotein cholesterol. Now, a proper diet, okay, if a well-planned, a well-tailored diet can take care of both this. Now, unfortunately, what has been told to community or public at large is, oh, you need to consume high PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid oils or plant oils, which is going to take care of all this. Okay? No. What's very important is to maintain an ideal profile of saturated fatty acid, monounsaturated fatty acid, and polyunsaturated fatty acid. So we need to have a good balance of various food components and not just focus on increasing PUFA or polyunsaturated fatty acid. Okay, we'll come to a little bit on throw more light on the type of fat in subsequent slides. Hypertension, we need to maintain our blood pressure within the range of 120 to 80. In fact, the latest is not 120/80, but 110/70. So it's like, getting more and more hypertensive patients. Now, it's suggested that our daily intake of salt should be around 15 grams. I'm talking about salt. And that is something like 3 teaspoons. It's not so. On an average hour, especially in Goa, okay, Indian diet, our intake is actually 15 to 25 grams. Okay? When I said we should be consuming 15 grams, people are very happy. No. Our intake of daily salt should be around 6 grams. Should be 6 grams. Because that 1 teaspoon of salt meets our adequate requirement of sodium of around 2.5 grams. And this is one of the reasons that we have a lot of hypertensive cases or high blood pressure patients. Now, we need to strictly monitor their diet, and what we say is, if you have high blood pressure, you need to reduce the salt intake. Now, it's very difficult to explain to people that, when you say reducing the salt intake, we may have to put them on even quarter teaspoon of salt. But they are just not ready. They say, it's not really going to help me out, okay? Or they go on, some other products without even checking its label. Most of our, I'll tell you, a tastemaker, okay, some tastemakers, it has got monosodium glutamate, okay? And many of us don't know that it's sodium. Monosodium glutamate, it's a salt, and it has got sodium. So we need to, if you're not adding salt to your diet, or let's say you have gone on a salt-free diet, but if you're adding all these things, you're not realizing that you are, consuming or taking in salt. Okay, so similarly, there are many of our processed foods which has got salt in it or hidden salt, because it may not be in the name of table salt or sodium chloride, but it will be there, as a part of the other ingredient. Okay, so we always make it a point to tell, hypertensive patients to look at the labels, the food labels, and then accordingly include or exclude, that particular food from their diet. Cancer, there's one speaker who's going to talk in detail about what cancer is. But dietary factors, particularly low fiber, okay, high-fat diets have been found to be associated with increased risk of cancer. In fact, I remember when this was 25 years back, that I was doing my internship at Tata Cancer Hospital in Bombay, since I studied in Mumbai. The patients would be put on antioxidant therapy. Okay, so they would be put on plant and fruit therapy. Why? Because plants and fruits are rich in antioxidants, or what we call them, as they are non-nutritive substances, but they have a lot of antioxidants like vitamin A, vitamin C. See, antioxidants is not a newer term. We are used to maybe certain nutrients like vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin E, right? Yeah, but they are nothing but they are our good antioxidants, and they require, why? Because they scavenge or they eat up, the free radicals. So it's very important to include fruits and vegetables, of course, organic, which we are promoting, right? Okay, so organic fruits and vegetables which are having tremendous amount of these flavonoids or phytonutrients. And I'm telling you, we've managed to, of course, lengthen the time of many patients, okay, who had GI cancers by putting them on antioxidative therapy naturally by giving them fruits and vegetables. Okay, so it's a request to all, whether with NCDs or without, okay, to include fruits and vegetables in your diet to a large extent. Now, when you say what do you mean by large extent in terms of quantity, I would say to include them at least 250 to 300 grams a day on daily basis. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to go in for something very expensive. I've seen people, they go by one fine day, someone says this particular fruit is the best fruit, right? Okay. Now, we have got exotic fruits, a lot of exotic fruits, which is seen in our local market. Now, request, be indigenous, be local. Include, locally grown fruits and vegetables, because we are used to, our body is used to, those nutrients and those veggies. So what are the simple tips to prevent lifestyle diseases? We have this Eat Right campaign. Have you heard of Eat Right campaign? The 2006 Act, FSSAI, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has given us a FSSAI Act, and under that Act we are supposed to comply with certain regulations and legislations. Now, even FSSAI is focusing on Eat Right campaign. What is Eat Right campaign? We are talking about including healthy foods right from the beginning, and that's how we are now outreaching this campaign to school children, because they are the most vulnerable section and most susceptible group, wherein we can really make or modulate their eating habits. Okay, so eat right to live right. Okay, so what is eating right? Quality and quantity both needs to be emphasized. Okay, just because you are having, let's say, for example, something which is rice, which is 140 rupees a kg, does not mean that you are consuming something healthy. Okay, I said, be local. So our ukde tanur, parboiled rice, we need to include in our diet. But our traditional pattern, if you go to see, we are so used to having a heap of rice and then the other accompaniments in small portion. But we need to, take care of that. We need to reduce that heap, okay? Consume rice. I don't agree with people, who say, no, you must exclude rice from your platter. You consume rice, but in moderation. Moderation is the key, remember, to all our foods. Okay, so how much now? There's been a lot of debate on, intake of cereals. The major source of our carbohydrates. We have got important nutrients, carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Am I right? Heard of? Yeah? I'm sure you must have also been fascinated with this high carb and low carb diet, right? Okay, so these three important nutrients, they are the major contributors to our energy intake. And even though, the ICMR has given us these guidelines wherein they say we need to have approximately 8 to 10 servings, which works out to around 250 grams of, cereals. Because most of our carbohydrates come from cereals and pulses and or plant-based sources, okay? But we always say, don't go by. That's one standard guideline which has been given, okay? So what is applicable for me or what suits me may not be really helping you all, okay? So it's, what I request is each one of you all to reduce your carbohydrate intake, and it's possible to reduce this carbohydrate intake by lowering your cereals. I just give an example of, if you're given a choice between a cereal and a pulse. Okay, choice between a cereal and a pulse. Now, what are cereals? Rice, wheat, oats, they are all cereals. Okay, your matki or lentils, okay, green grams or peas, they are what? Pulses. So if you are given a choice, let's say if you are invited somewhere and you have one bowl of rice and one bowl of pulse, okay, I would advise you all to go in for pulse. For the reason that 30 grams of rice gives you 22 grams of carbohydrate and 30 grams of pulse gives us 17 grams of carbohydrate. So straight away you are reducing, your carbohydrate intake by 5 grams. Do you all agree? Yes? And that's the reason why I said, in a session of 45 minutes, I cannot, tell you all, okay, what is good or what is bad or what you need to include more or less. We need to have a knowledge on food composition. Increase your mobility, stay fit to live long. And we have our excellent speakers who are going to talk about increasing your mobility. But we have got these national standards which says that, earlier we would say you need to be physically active for, you need to have exercise pattern for at least 30 minutes, okay? Don't go by that time. From 30 minutes now we are saying 45 minutes, brisk walk, enough, more than enough. You don't really have to go somewhere, and get a hole in your pockets because you know what I'm talking about, okay? Yeah? So brisk walking for 45 minutes a day is must for all these subjects, who are actually having non-communicable diseases and those who are not having to prevent them. Distress to impress, manage stress. My mother, okay, who right from, when I remember when we got used to milk, it was just plain milk, okay? Just to give you an example. She never added sugar to our milk. And when I would see people, literally adding to 1 glass of milk 2 and 3 teaspoons of sugar because they could not, okay? So it is like, you are making someone get used to a particular taste and then you say, oh, after 40 years that it is because of so and so that, today this person is facing or suffering from this condition. Am I right? Yeah, okay. So my mother, who in fact instilled in us good dietary habits, who also followed or practiced good dietary habits, okay, today is a victim of diabetes. Why? Because tremendous amount of stress, unwanted things which she carries with her. We've been telling her you distress yourself. There are different mechanisms for which you do. So it's a request, okay, if you find happiness in meditation, join that group. Okay, if you feel you can just chant certain mantras and relax, and that will help you out, to come out of this. Yes, distress yourself. Okay, so eating meals at regular time. Now, many of us working people, we do not have we say in a government setup or even in certain organizations that we have, a lunch period, right? Okay, 1:15 to 2 o'clock is supposed to be our lunch. And I've realized that over a period of time, when if you miss that time, okay, then you get those biological signals, right? Okay, an alarm. Get up, you need to eat. But I've seen these people who are constantly on move, they don't go by the time. And they have, erratic time patterns, as a result of which their eating habits have changed. And subsequently, what happens to them is those lifestyle diseases. So now, I don't want to comment on anybody's diets. You must be familiar with Dr. Dixit's diet, or somebody else's diet. But just look at that. Whichever diets they have recommended, what they are talking about? Regularity in your time, isn't it? Yeah? Okay, so if you are used to it at a particular time, follow that time. A lot of patients, though I'm not into practicing, okay, but still many patients, they come to me and then they say, I fasted, for a couple of days, yeah, and now it's okay, now I'm feasting. That's because I have fasted and I'm trying to make up. You're not realizing that our body had gone into something called as a shock period. Okay, so that shock period or that foreign system, to cope up with that, our body is the best actually to tell us. Okay, so our body may feel that, oh, I may be taken again for another fasting mode. Okay, so let me try to have a balance, and as a result of which, during that time, you actually intentionally are not feasting, but you are eating a lot, more than what you would have otherwise eaten. So don't make, fasting and feasting as a part of your diet, okay? You have small and regular meals, okay? And try to achieve your nutrients or attain your nutrients. Because what we say, even for a diabetic patient, okay, maintain the regularity. They may go into hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is bad than hyperglycemia. Do you all agree? Has anybody gone through this, hypoglycemia? Many a times, you may not realize that you are into a hypoglycemic shock. Even a person who is not having diabetes. Okay, that could be because of, you feel that you have maintained your diet by not eating, and it's actually causing harm to your body. Okay, so avoid fasting and feasting and maintain this regularity. Start the day with breakfast. I always, when I would talk to my students, I would say break fast. You are breaking overnight fast. Isn't it? Yeah, you're breaking overnight fast. So it is a brain food. You start your meal, okay, with a good breakfast, having a good dose of our nutrients. Now, that good dose of nutrients doesn't mean that, toast with jam. It will give you high energy. The processed jam what we have, it will give you high energy. And sometimes some kids, they say, oh, I got energy, ma'am, I'm highly energized today because I had so and so. Obviously, because the ingredients which have gone in that processed jam is energy rich. There's so much of sugar. The ones who are into jam manufacturing, okay, 1 kg of pulp, you are taking almost quarter kg to 1 kg of sugar, because sugar is used there, as a natural preservative and an ingredient which will increase its shelf life. So obviously, you are energized, but and it's not really going to give you any benefit. In fact, in the long run, it's going to cause you harm. Yeah. So this is for moment we say tiffin. It means it's applicable only for children and school students. No, it's applicable to everyone working. Carry nutritious tiffin. You don't have to, then you don't have to order on Swiggy and those other apps because you are running short of some healthy meals. Okay, a simple thing I would advise any of the patients is to have roasted til, sesame seeds. Yeah, okay. carry a small pouch of sesame seeds along with you all, okay? Some nuts, yeah? They are good sources of monounsaturated fatty acid, MUFA. I was talking to you about, MUFA and PUFA. Yeah, MUFA we need to have, in right amount in our diet. So most of our nuts, now walnuts, almonds, they are good sources, but of course they are also expensive. I do agree. So we have alternative food supplements. Okay. So sesame, don't wait for it to be consumed only in the month of January. In Goa, particularly when we have Sankrant, Makar Sankrant, we consume. But I think, every mother should make it a point, to include sesame seeds in the diet of all our students. If you Google and go through, some scholarly articles, you'll come across beautiful composition and health benefits of these foods. Okay, so the dietary changes which we need to make. We need to have variety of foods. See, no one food gives us all the important nutrients or all the type of, as I've said, bioactive substances. Bioactive substance which is present in garlic is not present in ginger. And that's the reason why, most of the spices and condiments, it has got its peculiar flavor. Yes? Yes? Yeah? Okay? What is? It's because of the important constituents which are present in them. Yeah. Now, why I said about garlic, dietary change. Garlic has got allyl compounds, allicin in it, and it has shown to increase your good cholesterol. That is HDL cholesterol. It has reduced even LDL cholesterol to a great extent. There are certain studies, long-term longitudinal studies have proven it. So. When you want to simply add flavor to your food, these are our substances or dips what we have, wherein you can make use of our spices and condiments. Fenugreek seeds, methi seeds. People are under the impression that methi seeds are good for a diabetic because they are bitter. Agree? Yes? People have got this myth. It's not because of its bitterness is because of the important constituent present in there, but methi seeds has got certain alkaloids present in them, and they have been shown to have or to interfere with certain methods. I would say biochemical methods, which interferes with the production of cholesterol, which interferes with the production of the other detrimental constituents. Okay. Now water. Before I move on to other, how much of water you must drink? 8 glasses of water, 8 to 10 glasses of water, right? People sometimes, I remember once in a forum, I got a comment, I need only 500 ml of water. But this is something which is, I think, individual based. Yeah, we say 1.5 to 2 liters of water. Now, why water therapy? We use this as a behavior change modification. Someone who is not having a control over that eating habits, okay, what we say is you sip water, okay, in between. So that will kind of rehydrate your cells, and you may feel charged, and as a result of which you may avoid eating something which otherwise would have contributed to your high energy. Okay. Now, so we need to increase the intake of high fiber foods. Now, how much of fiber? Approximately around 30 grams of fiber per 1,000 kilocalories. So on an average, I always say you ensure that you are taking 50 to 60 grams of dietary fiber in a day. Now, we need to know about carbohydrates. Okay, the type of carbohydrates, they differ. There was a time wherein we would use simple versus complex carbohydrates. So all polysaccharides or all, we would recommend, our subjects or our patients to consume complex carbohydrates. Still, we realize that starch, which is also a complex carbohydrate, is one of the major culprits, for diabetes. So what we need to do is make a right choice of type of carbohydrate. So instead of saying simple and complex, what we emphasize is include more of high fiber foods. Now, cereals and millets. We have got so many millets. Please include that in your diet. Which are the millets? In Goa, we are used to ragi, but I've seen the consumption of ragi is poor. We have fox millet, okay, but quinoa, rajgira, amaranth sounds better, right? With an accent, amaranth. And I know people go to, some shopping malls and look out for, okay, wherein amaranth is nothing but rajgira seeds, which in Goa or in Maharashtra, we were used to consume, okay, during fasting time for years back. And now we are talking about, amaranth. Okay, why? Because it's a millet, it's high fiber, it is nutritionally a good source, and it's going to get you relief from, your increased or haywired lipid profile. Okay, so before I wind up, I would just like to talk about, an important concept about this fat. Okay, you must have heard about trans fat. You must have heard about saturated fat and unsaturated fat. Trans fat is what is being added to our processed fats. In fact, by 2000, as per US FDA, by 2020, there should be a ban on, use of trans fat, right? So make it a point to, read at the labels. Trans fat is nothing but, which is the hydrogenated fat, which has undergone, processing, wherein more of hydrogen molecules are being added, and that is one of the reasons for coronary heart disease or atherosclerotic plugs. Okay, so what you need to do is, you need to, 30 grams is something, what we say, 30 grams is the intake, should be the intake of your fat on daily basis. 30 grams, when you talk about 30 grams, in terms of tablespoon, they are just 2 tablespoons. Now, Daryl, who is, managing his health perfectly, he may go for 30 grams. But let's say me, if I'm not included or not, if I'm not exercising on daily basis, okay, I have to consume less amount of that fat. Okay, so no shoe fits all, one, right? Okay, so you need to take a call on how much of that fat. Now, what is that fat? Okay, being a Goan, true Goan, I am going to focus on our coconut oil. If someone says it's bad, no, not really. Okay, it is one of the important oils. In fact, studies have gone into, they say even after hitting that oil, there is no change, in its constituents which has happened or which is happening as compared, to the other plant-based oils. Okay, so please include, oil in your diet, and don't stick to one particular oil. On daily basis, change your oils. You have at least 2 to 3 different sources of oils. It could be rice bran oil, it can be coconut oil, it can be canola oil, or it can be sunflower oil, but don't stick to one oil. Is that clear? Yeah, and this is really going to help us maintain our lipid profile. And we have worked, people have, our patients have shown a good curve, when we have tried making this dietary change in their diet. Okay, so fish oils. Okay, even though fish, fish is good, definitely good, because it's a good source of protein as well as omega-3 fatty acids, but I'm also going to emphasize on inclusion of fish oils. Why fish oils or fish, and which fish? Okay, you don't have to, boast, I'm going to, or, I've eaten red snapper, right, tamso, sardines, value, whitefish. Okay, mackerels, they're very good source or excellent sources of omega-3 fatty acids. That is our eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, which is having lipid atherogenicity reducing properties. Okay, so how much of fish? We at least say thrice a week you must include fish in your diet, okay, owing to its omega-3 fatty acid property. Many children of late have shown omega-3 fatty acid deficiencies. Okay, young children who are also obese, and then we have made, included omega-3 fatty acid supplements in your diet, and they have shown improvement. Okay, so fat is something which we need to take care of. So to conclude, I've got many more things too, but time constraints is not allowing me to speak on, but get moving or die sooner. Okay, the choice is ours. Agreed? Yeah? Okay, so stay fit, stay healthy. You know, this Diwali, I had tailor-made a message. Okay, may this Diwali, all of you all maintain your waist to hip circumference normal. May all of you all maintain, your lipid profile normal. And I take this opportunity because Diwali is still going on. Yeah, please ensure that you focus on your good health, and that will come from good eating habits. Inculcate them in children, and we need to make modifications in our dietary habits, and for that you follow the Eat Right pattern. Yeah, thank you very much for paying attention to.
Thank you, Varsha Naik, for leaving us with that very strong punchline, get moving or die, and also for busting a lot of the common myths. It's as if all of your years of experience, you put together the presentation with answering all the FAQs. Really appreciate it. Now, I request our chief guest to please present our memento as a token of our appreciation to Varsha Naik. Thank you so much.